Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Tuesday? Yes, happy Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining me. We have another fantastic show for you today. We're going to continue the conversation about the controversy, the sexual harassment lawsuit that has rocked Fox Sports. Some people, oh, here you go, you're just milking it for ratings. No, I'm going to unpack this deal so that young men have a clear indication and a clear picture of what they're up against in this modern American world that we've built, where we pander to women and where we pander to feminists. Have we cracked some jokes and added some humor to this? Yes. But are we trying to make and convey a very, very serious point about the ramifications of all of this pandering to feminists and to women in general, and this whole deal that we owe women a debt and an apology for things in the past? This is all very consistent with those of you that have watched this show over the last 3 or 4 years. This is our message, that there are real consequences to all of this pandering. I'm not here to vilify women. I'm not here to vilify men. I'm here to tell the truth about the consequences of feminism, the consequences of pandering, the consequences of men waking up every day, buying the lie that we have mistreated women for thousands of years, and now we must bend over backwards and let them eat every apple in the garden. That's what we've been doing in America. That's what we've been doing around the globe. And this stuff has real impact. America, the America that we're going to leave young people and the generations behind us, is going to get its brains beat in by other countries and other cultures that aren't sitting around, hey, how can I pander to women? And they are out there. And so those of us that call ourselves Christians, who should have no shame about a patriarchal biblical worldview, we're going to look up and hand over an American culture that will be destroyed by other cultures, Muslim cultures, Islamic cultures, that aren't sitting around every day going, hey, how can we pander to women? How can we disavow male leadership? That's the competition they want us in, the people that want America destroyed and want Christianity destroyed. They want us to hand over leadership to women, while they let men lead them. Think it through. I'm going to get into it today, but before I do any of that, I want to tell you all, those of you that have been on this journey with me at Fearless, and those of you new to this journey at Fearless, the number one thing you can do to support me, this show, and what we're doing here, you got to join the Fearless mission in a real way. You got to become a subscriber to this channel and to everything that we're doing at Blaze TV. Go to fearlessmission.com, use the promo code FEARLESS. You'll get a $20 discount on your annual subscription to everything we're doing, everything we do here at the Blaze. It's important. This message that we're carrying, the whole corporate media structure, the whole rigged up system, is against me telling you the truths that I'm about to further unpack again today as it relates to the significance of this Fox Sports lawsuit, the accusations against Skip Bayless and Charlie Dixon and Joy Taylor. This stuff all speaks to much, much larger things going on globally and certainly right here in America. So please go to Fearless Mission, hop on board. We're never going to get treated fairly by YouTube or any of these social media platforms. And that's why we need you on board in a real way, subscribing to what we do here. Because look, does it feel like the wind is at our back? I just saw today where Facebook is adopting the community note standards that X has done and Elon Musk has implemented, and now Facebook is doing. Yes, it feels like the wind is at our back right now. But if you've lived long enough, or if you're smart enough, you know that wind can change direction at any time, and you know the changing of that wind is controlled, and it's a strategy. And I posted on X this morning, you know, all the Democrats, all the leftists, they're all patting themselves on the back. We certified the election. We conceded to Donald Trump. We did our job because we respect the Constitution. We're so much better than the Republicans. Oh, all the Democrats certified the election. It's all bogus BS. They're doing what they need to do to survive. No different than Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. In the aftermath of that corrupt 2020 election, they did what they needed to do to survive. If they didn't object to that corrupt election, Donald Trump wouldn't have survived, the entire MAGA movement wouldn't have survived, and would have all gone away, and the Uniparty would be celebrating. And it would be business as usual in Washington. And so Trump and the MAGA movement put up that 4-year fight and protested and stomped their feet because it was their only path to survival. Right now, the only path for survival for the leftists and the Democrats is for them to feign, oh God, we just love the Constitution. And so we certified the election. We did our job. Because if they objected right now, they would not survive. They would not. They look so crazy. They told so many lies, from the January 6th lie to the Russia hoax lie to the Biden's imperfect health lie. They've told to the climate change lie. They've told so many lies. Their credibility is at such a low level that now they have to inch back towards sanity and concede this election. They're doing what they have to do to survive. They are no better than MAGA. They're no better than any politician. Anyway, I'm off on a tangent. I want to get into the Joy Taylor thing and the whole Fox Sports thing again today. I got more stuff I want to unpack and say and make sure you guys are aware of what's going on and the significance of this. And so I looked up this morning, last night, I was like, hey, the New York Times, when are they going to chime in on bone jugs and harmony? When? When is the New York Times? We called it yesterday bone joy in harmony. Now we're going to pivot to bone jugs and harmony. When's the New York Times going to chime in on bone jugs and harmony? This is right up their alley. You got a lawsuit from a single mother who's an Iranian who's claiming that the patriarchy destroyed her at Fox Sports and that a 73-year-old white man, Skip Bayless, mistreated her and offered her money for sex, and that a 40-something white executive, Charlie Dixon, was betting on-air talent at his will and offering them up promotions based on sexual favors. You got Fox Sports owned by Rupert Murdoch. So you got 90-something-year-old Rupert Murdoch, 70-something white man Skip Bayless, and a 40-something white man Charlie Dixon, all in the crosshairs of the New York Times with this explosive lawsuit. And we got crickets from the New York Times, the leader of the leftist movement. As of right now, as I'm talking, I haven't, and I looked right before this show, I was like, where's the New York Times? Where's their story on this? And there's nothing. And the reason why there's nothing so far is because they can't figure out how to spin this thing in a way that serves their narrative that, oh boy, this is just a prime example of white supremacy and white patriarchy just exploiting women and it must be destroyed. And they can't do it because the mixed nut, and I apologize for saying that, but not really because I just said it. It's factual. And let me, for those of you that have never heard me talk this way or, oh my God, Whitlock called Joy Taylor a mixed nut. Let me be crystal clear here. I got no problem with mixed kids. Anybody that knows me know I got no problem with interracial dating. I would have had a mixed nut if I had had a baby. But that's the problem here. They got this mixed child who claims to be black, who's half black, half white, at the center of this, and anybody that reads this lawsuit goes, holy cow. Well, this Skip Bayless stuff is interesting and kind of sensational, but Skip Bayless offered somebody $1 million to have sex with him. That's an everyday occurrence to some degree. Not that much money, but and I explained to you all how that number probably came about yesterday, and I may have to give you another explanation if you didn't follow it or restate that explanation. But no one's like, white guy at work offering somebody $1 million to have sex or money to have sex. That's par for the course. Oh, white guy is involved allegedly in an inappropriate affair with a young employee. That happens every day of the week. What's interesting and what everybody has focused in on is like, holy cow, we got this black queen out here that is basically grooming her best friend, the hairstylist, to be a sex worker within corporate America. And that we got this black queen out here trading sex for promotions. And the New York Times don't want to have that discussion because that is where the discussion is. And everybody is kind of like, woo, boy, Joy Taylor. You're out here doing podcasts and doing interviews with everybody talking about how hard you worked and how you had to be twice as good to get anything and how this whole system and you part of this black girl magic deal. And now we get to see from your best friend, Nusheen, the hairstylist that you ran around with, that no, you got these opportunities with that big rack of yours and that peanut butter skin, and you were willing to offer yourself up, according to this lawsuit, to an executive, Charlie Dixon, and to on-air talent, Emmanuel Acho. And that you told Nusheen, hey, shut up. Keep your mouth shut. Go along with the program. This is how we roll. This is what the lawsuit alleges, that the black girl magic queen is basically in there grooming a single Iranian mother in, hey, here's how you trade sex for business opportunities. And the New York Times and corporate media and the Democrats and the leftists, they don't want to have that discussion. And it's a discussion that needs to be had because it's everywhere in corporate America. Not just corporate media, it's everywhere in corporate America. And they don't want to have that discussion because if you have that discussion, then you have to broaden it out and take a wider view and say, wasn't there a mixed nut who's the vice president who just ran for the presidency? Who kicked off her political career betting Willie Brown, a man twice her age? Wasn't she spotted with Montel Williams on his arm at some point? What is Kamala Harris someone who went from Willie Brown to Montel Williams and eventually landed on Doug Emhoff, some Jewish dude? Isn't this a woman that's kind of slept her way to power? And is that the blueprint that we're laying out for young women. Hey, ladies, and not that any of these people would be the first to do it, but now we're mainstreaming and normalizing it. We just ran a woman who slept her way into politics. We just ran her for the presidency. And now we're looking at a lawsuit where a single Iranian working mother is saying, hey, I had a mixed race lady that was grooming me and explaining to me, hey, here's how you use a big pair of cans and no morals to move up the corporate ladder. You don't need to be qualified. You don't need to work that hard. You can just bang someone, and then in the lawsuit it says, this is according to her friend, that yeah, when push comes to shove, I will accuse this executive of forcing himself on me. And that'll shut him down. And then as you walk through her career path at Fox Sports, which I spelled out yesterday, they wanted her on my show originally. I was like, nah, bad match. And people have got all upset with me for talking to you guys in a straightforward manner, that I'm spelling it out to you in a way that I hope everyone can understand. And for those of you that are disappointed with the way that I spelled it out, and particularly if your objection is like, hey, as a Christian, Jason, choose better language, I'm going to apologize to you that are sincerely feel that. But I'm going to double down and stand on it, because in this moment, that type of raw commentary is necessary so that the point lands with everybody. I don't think saying that Joy Taylor has a big rack, I don't think that's profane, in my opinion. Maybe I'll listen to the rest of y'all, hit me over email, hit me over Twitter or X, and explain to me how big rack is some sort of over-the-top, inappropriate word. Or big cans is some sort of over-the-top, inappropriate word. Explain that to me, because you're talking to someone who's a recovering profanity-aholic. You're talking to someone who, used to say MF as a term of endearment. And I've corrected a lot of that. And anybody that's watched this show has seen me improve my language tremendously. And so I'm not ready to go there that big cans and a big rack is somehow across the profanity line. I just don't buy it. But maybe some of you all can explain it to me. Back it up with some scripture when you try to explain it to me. Don't just come to me with your opinion. Back it up biblically, and maybe I'll listen. So what did I say? I said big rack, a pair of cans, and peanut butter skin. Someone walked me through how peanut butter skin is some sort of derogatory, inappropriate description of Joy Taylor or any woman. I am not the only man that's attracted, or peanut butter skin is attractive to. That's almost a universal opinion. Everybody, who doesn't like a woman with natural peanut butter skin, or a woman that sits out in the sun 3 hours a day to get peanut butter skin? Black dudes, white dudes, everybody that I know likes peanut butter skin. I just don't see this as some sort of, oh my God, and I've read, or I saw it over social media, I was trending, Jason Whitlock faces backlash for sexist comments and inappropriate comments about Joy Taylor. Joy Taylor, according to my research, as best as I can tell, and I say this in all seriousness, I'm not trying to joke, but she bought them big cans. This isn't something that was given to her and there was nothing she could do about it. She wanted big cans. And if you ever watched her on Fox Sports, she displayed them constantly. She wanted me, you, and everybody else to notice her big cans, her big rack. Put them on display almost every day. And yesterday, after this embarrassment comes up, she puts the big cans of peanut butter back in the pantry. She covers them up. But I'm the bad guy for noticing. And I'm the bad guy for pointing out that and trying to tell young people, particularly young men of any color, hey guys, this is what you need to be aware of when you step into the work environment and the workplace. We've rigged up a system that panders to women and puts you and your reputation and your career in jeopardy every day that you go to work. We've loaded up the workplace and told women, hey, we got something, and again, we got something called the Crown Act that Congress passed where, women can wear any kind of hairstyle they want. This is all this pandering to women. And you can get sued for somebody comes in with a crazy hairstyle and you say something about it, you can get sued. Bottom line, what they're trying to reinforce is women can come to work dressed any way they want. If they want to distract the entire office by wearing a bikini to work, you just have to deal with it. And I'm trying to tell young men, here are the consequences for when Eve walks into the garden and sees you over there. Well, oh, look at Adam. He's over in his little cubicle trying to obey God. And I'm not saying men are innocent in all this, but I'm saying the devil has a trap for us. He knows how weak and silly and penis-controlled we are. And that's all I confessed to yesterday, is that I'm the typical idiot man. You put a big rack and peanut butter skin in front of me, and I'm capable of doing something stupid. That was my point. People are sitting up as if Jason Whitlock thought Joy Taylor would give him some. First of all, that wasn't my argument. My argument was, I know me, and I know how stupid I am. I know how weak I am. And that's why I was like, that peanut butter skin and that big rack, let me go the other direction. But then just apply common sense to your argument. Go watch any of Joy Taylor's videos. And I'm not saying this to disparage Joy Taylor. I'm just being factual. Y'all think these women that buy these big cans and put them on display every day, that they got some kind of standard that he's too heavy, or he's too this, or he's too that, that 304s have some kind of line in the sand that they won't cross? That defies the history of the world, and it certainly defies the 57 years I've been on this planet. I'm not saying this disparagingly. I'm just saying it factually. You can talk a woman into damn near anything. That's just a fact. Consistent enough, clever enough, talk a woman into anything. That's just common sense. And it's like this whole system is set up for all of us to avoid common sense. And we all want to trash anybody. How dare you try to give young men, particularly young black men, good advice? How dare you share the wisdom that your father shared with you so that you wouldn't fall into these traps? How dare you share this with other men? Whitlock's the bad guy. Joy Taylor, and this is why the New York Times hasn't written anything as of yet. Maybe they're doing it right now and they got it published, but they're trying to figure out how they can make Joy Taylor the victim. That might be why there's a guy that works for the Washington Post who I don't like, and I've clowned publicly before, Ben Strauss. He writes about the media. He's texted me yesterday, Jason, could you give me an interview? I'm pretty sure he just called me right before this show. I didn't take the call. Ben, I'm not returning your call. You're a dishonest journalist. I've pointed that out before. You've written about me in an unfair fashion. Your newspaper nor you are prepared to write anything truthful about the clash going on between people that believe in the patriarchy and people that believe in the matriarchy. Why would I hand over what I have to say to a news organization that's rigged against me? Just take my comments right here. Put those in your story. I'm not holding anything back here. Go watch what I said yesterday. But me getting on the phone with some reporter from the Washington Post and then having to wait around to see what he magically does with anything that I say? Nah, I don't need that. No interest in it. This whole system is rigged up to destroy people like me. I believe in a biblical worldview. I believe in the patriarchy. I believe that men and women complement each other. Y'all got men and women out here competing with each other. And so when you read this lawsuit, when you read what Joy Taylor is grooming Nusheen Farji into, she's grooming her into how to compete and leverage and exploit men, and how to bait men into falling to their lowest common denominator, their sexual lust. And then you got them by the balls, and now your qualifications don't matter, and now you can manipulate any and everything from behind the scenes because you've baited them into sexual malfeasance, sexual immorality. New York Times, the feminist movement, the Democrats, the atheists, the secular people, the fake lukewarm Christians who, don't want to be traditional, don't want to disavow feminism, want to use their sexuality and their assets, sexual assets, to manipulate men and move up the corporate ladder and compete with men. They don't want you hearing this. And that's why I'm exposing this. And this is why I left corporate media. Because I know myself. And I said that, I'm just a weak dude. And if I don't put myself in an environment where I'm surrounded by people trying to go the same direction as me, I'm going to fall. And so I'm going to give you a couple of more just real world examples of things I experienced in the media, things I certainly experienced at Fox Sports, just to keep it relevant to this lawsuit. And I'm going to get into the people, Stephen A. and Dave Portnoy done jumped out here and they're defending Joy Taylor and Skip Bayless. I'm like, what are you talking about? Are you that immoral? Are you that stupid? Are you that controlled that you can't see this for what it is? You're in the media. You know exactly what this is. I'm gonna give you one more example. We'll take a little break, and then I will go into these clips from Stephen A. Smith and comments Dave Portnoy made over Twitter, and Marcellus Wiley had some very interesting things to say about this. Marcellus and I, of course, work together at Fox Sports. And at some point, we'll bring Steve Kim on, and we'll talk about some other things. Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders and what they're doing on draft day. People don't have a first-round grade on Shedeur. Dan Orlovsky had a very, very good take on why Josh Allen is the MVP. We'll get into Jimmy Butler and Tyreek Hill, what's going on in Washington with those guys. We'll do some of that with Steve Kim. Shemeka will come on at the end. We'll talk a little about Angel Reese. But let me give you this last little insight and just memories and just a real world example of what happens in corporate America, corporate media, and just how men, we have to pursue righteousness or we're going to continue to fall and not be positioned to be leaders. And we'll all end up pandering to women. And so I just want, is everything Nusheen says in this lawsuit 1,000% accurate? No, because it's written by a lawyer who's going to spin a narrative. But he's working on a solid foundation of truth here in this lawsuit. He's not pulling this stuff out of his rear end. He's working on a solid foundation of facts. Now, he's twisted up and sensationalized it, and I tried to walk you through that as it related to Skip Bayless. But I just want to give you an example of just like what it's like in television, particularly in the sports media, but I'm sure it's throughout sports media. You got a bunch of makeup artists who are well-intentioned. You got a bunch of young girls that want to be on TV who are well-intentioned for the most part, but they're just as weak as I am and you are. And they'll cut corners and they'll use sex to their advantage. And so I just want to give you just the scenario. So you got makeup artists that, are making anywhere from $75,000, I would say, let's go low end, $60,000 to $150,000, $200,000. And some of them might be making, they latch on to some superstar celebrity and they may travel everywhere with that superstar celebrity. And hell, they may be making $250,000 traveling with this superstar celebrity and doing their hair and makeup. Some of them might be making who knows? But in a setting like a television network, they're making anywhere from 60 to maybe 120,000. I may be off, but I'm in the ballpark. And they're dealing with, and these women are, let's say, from age 25 to 55 for the most part. A good percentage of them are single or unmarried. They may be dating somebody, but they're single or unmarried. And they're dealing with men that are on TV making $500,000 to $15 to $20 million a year. And at a Fox Sports, they're dealing with a lot of men that are former professional athletes who have made millions of dollars. And then you got on-air hosts that are making millions of dollars. And then you got, again, so they're dealing with really high-profile men. And those men, to a lot of these women, look like lottery tickets. Their mentality, they're in the service industry of, hey, I'm going to do your hair and makeup. I'm going to do everything I can to serve you. It's the service industry. And so there's anybody that's taking care of you, cutting your hair, doing your makeup, clipping your fingernails, running errands for you, or what, that's always attractive to men. So their job requires them to do and mimic behaviors that are attractive to men. And many of these women are attractive, period, end of story. And every day for 15 to 20 to 30 minutes, they sit down and have a conversation with some millionaire man. And eventually, they're just like anybody else. They're going to throw some bait out there. And eventually, the men are going to take that bait. And I went into it with the mindset of like, I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to do it. Every single day, because I'm not giving this person leverage over me. But eventually you get worn out. And there was one makeup artist I was halfway attracted to, or halfway, almost broke me down to where, once I said something flirtatious to her. We were at a Super Bowl event, I think in Miami, I can't remember. But Anyway, very tame, nothing that could get me in trouble. But again, I'm just saying, even if you had the best intentions, you're going to fall. But I'll never forget, and this is just a real story in terms of what transpires and what happens. This woman had to be in the 35 to 40 year range, relatively attractive, makeup artist. It didn't do my hair or makeup very often, but she was a nice lady. And she, I'm sitting in the chair and she's making small talk. And I make very limited small talk. Anybody that knows me knows I'm not into small talk. But when it comes to these women, it's like I'm really not into small talk because I know that small talk is eventually going to lead to big talk and it's going to get me in trouble. This is a nice woman. She's not, I'm not trying to disparage her or paint her in a horrible light. I'm certainly not going to use her name. But I can remember she told me, unsolicited from out of nowhere, you know what men want? They want to F-U-C-K, sleep and eat. And she basically conveyed to me that she knew how to take care of a man and his simple desires, to F-U-C-K, sleep and eat. And you know, I'm sitting in the chair and just like, whew, boy, that's a lot. And she's halfway attractive and she just laid it out there. And I just went, boy, that sounds like heaven. And then I just left it alone. And again, it was thrown out. And so me at 45, 48, 50 years old, you say that to one of these athletes. You say that to someone who is not committed to avoiding that kind of trouble. You got instant trouble right there. It's going down. Anybody else hears that, they're not like, holy cow, I got to get out of this. They're like, boom, green light. It's on like Donkey Kong. I'm not calling this person a bad person. I'm telling you what the system puts in place. Attractive women making modest incomes, serving men making enormous incomes. Small talk every day for weeks on end. Eventually something's going to get said. Men are going to be men, women are going to be women, and no, everybody's going to look around and you hear the stories, well, this executive's doing this and this talent's doing this, and you start thinking, you know what? I might as well join the party. This would be great. Somebody to come by my dressing room and visit me from time to time, and maybe we rendezvous at my apartment or someplace later. Sounds real easy and simple, and it's a headache, and it's a problem, and it's how men end up being compromised, and it's how we end up with DEI programs and all this, oh, we must empower women. And the next thing you know, you have, particularly in the sports media world, you got people that don't know anything about the sports media world, don't understand how sports are an iron sharpens iron endeavor, culture. It requires a ruggedness and a toughness that women just don't have naturally. And particularly women that have never participated in sports in a real way. They've been cheerleaders or Instagram models or or homecoming queens or the cutest girl in high school. That's who gets a lot of these jobs. And it's not even just the makeup jobs. It's the executives. We got a female executive at Fox Sports. The woman told me that Robert Littell from Black Sports Online complained about something I said on air. And I was sitting there like, so? And she was sitting there like it was a big deal. And I'm like, this dude can barely spell cat. This guy runs some website that's for idiots. And we're supposed to care what Robert Littell has to say? And you're bringing this to me? But women aren't built for conflict. Someone calls and complains. How can we compromise? How can we make them happy? How can we make sure no one calls and complains? And so the next thing you know how we can make sure no one calls and complains? Let's make sure no one on air says anything that could trigger the blogosphere, the sports media, that anybody could really complain about. And that's why these people avoid the truth constantly, because they don't have the backing from the underlings and the people in support. They don't really have the backing. And so if you say something, if you say, hey, Colin Kaepernick's a clown, and he's not standing on any substance. The female executives, the feminized men in the executive roles, they're like, oh my God, people are gonna complain. And I'm gonna have to deal with phone calls with people complaining. And so you remove all the ruggedness from conversation. And this is happening across all of the media. America used to be a rugged place where men squared off in disputes and settled things like men. We didn't have to sit around and go, oh my God, is this gonna hurt their feelings? And I used to work at a time, long before we just injected women everywhere. When I was at the Kansas City Star in the mid-early 90s and all through that time, people wrote letters to the editor complaining about Jason. We'd publish them, and I couldn't wait to read them. And now, because we feminized everything and injected women everywhere, it's like, oh my God, someone complained, and oh, have you seen my mean tweets? And I got death threats. Oh! You can't build a strong country with a feminine mindset when you're running around worried about feelings. And that's America is going to get wiped out if we don't fix this. Because there are countries that are not running around, oh, how can we pander to women? How can we empower women? And if you sit around and wonder why people are like, hey, put Donald Trump in office. He got that tough skin. He don't care what people think. And then you pit him against a Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris. They get their brains beat in because there are people in America that are like, nah, man, this is a rough and tumble free speech kind of country. That's why we're better than everybody else, because we would stand out in the street and hash it out, brawl it out, whatever. But now that we're in this contest of protecting everyone's feelings, we've empowered women, and someone like Joy Taylor and she's not alone. This is rampant and widespread. She's not remotely alone in terms of like, I'm gonna go give somebody some poo nanny, and then I'm gonna hold it over their head. And now I got a job for life, or long enough for me to get into a contract where I can make a couple of $1 million, stack away a couple of $1 million, and then hopefully, when I exit here, I won't be so exposed or so used up that I can't trick another man into marrying me. Or trick another executive at a different network into falling in love with my big cans and peanut butter skin. Where's the lie? If I'm lying, get offended. If I'm telling the truth, I don't like to use the word give me my flowers because it's feminized and all that, but just give me a round of applause. All right, I'm going to break down some of these other clips before we get to Steve Kim and some of this other stuff. Before I do that, I want to talk to you guys about Home Title Lock. Have you ever checked the title to your home? If you're like me, the answer is you probably haven't been in the routine of doing that, and that's exactly what scammers are counting on. In today's world, you need to take personal responsibility for protecting your biggest asset, your home. The FBI calls it house stealing. And let me tell you, this is a real problem. Here's how it happens. A criminal fills out a one-page document with your information, forges your signature, stamps it with a phony notary seal, and files it with the county. Just like that, your home isn't legally yours anymore. These criminals don't even want your house. They're after your equity. They take out loans against your property, then disappear, leaving you with debt and a legal nightmare to deal with. but you can take action and protect yourself. That's why I trust Home Title Lock to protect my greatest asset. Their triple lock action monitors your home's title 24/7, alerts you of any changes, and if God forbid you're a victim, they work fast to restore your title with no out-of-pocket cost to you. Don't wait until it's too late. Go to HomeTitleLock.com. Use your promo code FEARLESS for a free 30-day trial and a free title history to report to ensure your home hasn't already been compromised. That's HomeTitleLock.com, promo code FEARLESS, or use the link in the description for 30 days of protection and a free title report. Take action now and protect what's yours. Go to HomeTitleLock.com. Let me return to Bone Jugs and Harmony and the people defending her. Stephen A. Smith has hopped in here, and he's defending Joy Taylor and Skip Bayless, and I'm gonna. Dave Portnoy did the same thing, and I'm gonna unpack that as well. But let's play SOT number 1 here first of Stephen A. Defending Joy Taylor.
I don't know Joy Taylor that well. Even though she and I have interacted with one another on several occasions throughout her career, and I find her to be a consummate professional, very good at what she does, very capable, very knowledgeable about the world of sports and what have you. I also know that she's big on women empowerment, so it's hard to imagine her saying get over it. But again, I don't know.
Obviously, Stephen A. Smith is a fraud, in my opinion. And it's comments like this that expose him as a fraud. Here's I grew up in the streets. The drug dealers protected me. Everybody knew, hands off me, the drug dealers. And I'm a street guy from Hollis, Queens. This Negro has no street smarts. None. Zero. I'm calling it street smarts. He has no wisdom. None. Zero. She's for women's empowerment. I couldn't imagine her. What do you think women's empowerment is, Stephen A? It's using any and everything that a woman has to offer to get ahead. It's using any and everything that a woman has to offer to compete against men and to get men under their thumb. This is, the people that take Stephen A. Smith seriously and think he represents some sort of black masculinity or black empowerment or black anything. It's like, you are a clown that you can't see through. This dude is completely emasculated. He's propped up because he's a clown. He has no street smarts, no wisdom. His point of view is completely feminized. I don't know Joy Taylor that well, but she's really accomplished, and she says she knows this. He don't know nothing about her. He watched her show. He knows what I know, or I know a little bit more, but she got a big pair of cans and peanut butter skin, period. That's all he knows. Clown. Here he is. Let's play SOT number 2, defending Skip Bayless.
I don't know what happened. But just like I said, I've known Jay-Z for 25 years. I can't imagine that. I've known Skip for just as long. I can't imagine it. I can't imagine it. Especially when they brought up the $1.5 million. The Skip Bayless I know has a hard time giving away $15. He's one of the cheapest people I know. That's just me. But that doesn't mean that I have any inside knowledge about any of this. I don't, and I'm not going to get involved. I think it's incredibly dicey and irresponsible for people who don't know to act like they do know. But in the same breath, I also feel it's important that if you know people or you think you know people and you've had a long-standing relationship with those people, that it's not a crime for you to say the person that I know, the person that I've been around, the person that I worked with in his case, for 4 straight years from 2012 to 2016 doing First Take every weekday morning at 10 a.m. to 12 noon. The person that I knew since our days at Fox Sports when we would appear on Jim Rome's show, okay, The Last Word and stuff like that, and we were in the same Fox building off of Pico Boulevard and Avenue of the Stars. The person that I've seen that really, really trusts almost no one and doesn't expose himself to anybody. Eating the same breakfast and lunch every day. His vice is a Diet Mountain Dew, and he doesn't socialize with people. That's the guy I know. So imagining him being in this kind of position is shocking, to say the least. All I could tell you is that it's not the Skip Bayless I know.
Listen, the reason I do this show is I'm just trying to pass on to young people and people my age, older, the wisdom that I have acquired. I'm just trying to share with you. That to me is part of our calling as Christians, is to share the wisdom that we have, I have. And so Stephen A. is saying, the person that I know, and he's trying to evaluate the person that I know. And I try to tell people, don't evaluate people, only God knows. Only God is capable of really evaluating people. And that's why the Bible instructs you not to judge people's motives, because you'll never know them. And so I try to stick to evaluating situations. And so if you evaluate Skip's situation, then it becomes like, oh, I could see how a man could fall here. And it's not personal. It's not about Skip. It's about what could a man do in this situation? Virtually anything. The Bible is crystal clear on that. Your life experience at me and Stephen A.'s age should tell you that any man is capable of falling if he puts himself in the wrong situation. And so this is very consistent. If you look at what I said about, oh man, I just lost my train of thought. I'm going to segue to some advice I've given friends of mine. Oh, if you look at the way I handled Joy Taylor, it's like, oh boy, I know what I'm capable of. Let me avoid that situation. This is all very consistent. And this is how you should try to live your life. You have to understand who you are, your sin nature, and then avoid situations. And so for years, I've had friends that get married and then they'll make an off-the-cuff conversation. I'll never cheat on my wife. And I'll say, stop right there. Don't go into the marriage thinking this. You start, I'm not capable of cheating on my wife. That's a big sign to the devil and the enemies of your marriage, like, oh, I know how to get this dude. He thinks he's so righteous. He thinks he's so pure that he's incapable of this. And so he is the type of idiot who will put himself in all kinds of situations that will lead him to cheat. And he will not survive that. And so I tell my friends, I was like, no, don't do that. Commit right now to keeping yourself out of situations that will make it easy for you to cheat on your wife. You're going on the marriage journey, and it's a long, hard road. There will be times your wife will be sick. There will be times your wife will be pregnant. There will be times you and your wife don't like each other. And that might stretch 6 months, 6 weeks, 6 years. And the only way to prevent yourself from not cheating is don't put yourself in that situation. This is just plain, just common sense. So don't become best friends with a woman you work with, because your wife may be sick for a year and a half and may be incapable of having sex with you. And you become best friends with some girl at work, you got your backup plan. You're gonna fall. Some of you, your wife may go 6 days without having sex with you. And that's 5 days too long for you. But if you got some best friend at work who you're attracted to and you're in constant communication with, you've put yourself in position to fall. And so here's Stephen A. talking about, oh, the Skip Bayless I know, he would never do that. I'm like, well, how well do you know Skip Bayless? Because I want to play you this clip of Jay Crawford talking about the Skip Bayless he knew. Listen to this clip and then start evaluating what Nusheen is alleging here. Let's play shot number 3.
On the actual story where they came to blows, and I think it said they ended up outside the studio on the New York City streets, like, that's not exactly how it happened. But I still got a big kick out of reading it, being there and watching it firsthand, because what happened in the meeting, it just randomly came up. Skip somehow leans back in his chair and he said, I've had more sex than everybody in this room. And we were all looking at him like, first of all, what kind of thing is that to say? You know, like I said, we're not in junior high. Secondly, apropos of nothing we were talking about, Woody may have been, you know, bragging about a conquest or something, and Skip just shoots him down by saying, you have no idea. And so from that point, it comes up on the air, which stunned me. But Woody would do that. Woody would take the thing that should have been left in the meeting room and bring it to TV. Sometimes it was gold, sometimes it wasn't. But in this particular case, somehow it got brought up on, and I'm just sitting there between them going, what are we going to do now? And the way I remember it, and it's been years, the way I remember it, they sort of came together like in a jostling for the cameras kind of way. Like, you know, just sort of, you know, grabbing each other. And then Woody had this thing that he always used to do where he would trip on purpose on camera for a response. He was really good at drawing attention to himself. And I think what Woody did for the cameras as we were going to commercial break was he tried to make it seem like it was more than what it was. But we went to commercial break, and then it got not serious, but they were kind of tussling. But it didn't go outside the studio, outside the green room, right, outside our Manhattan offices into the streets of New York. Like it was nothing even close to that.
So Jay Crawford is talking about when they were doing the show 1st and 10, I think before First Take, Woody Page and Skip Bayless. And Skip Bayless is in the green room, dressing room, prep room, whatever, bragging, hey, I've had more sex than everybody. And so that clip is important because as I told you all yesterday, as I walked you through, how could Skip Bayless get in a conversation where he suggested this Nusheen, the hairstylist, that, you know, hey, I'll give you $1.5 million for sex. And I walked you through how, like, he's not talking about that as a one-off. We don't know the context. A lawyer has taken what Skip said and spun it into a different context. And so I walked you through yesterday how that was probably something where Skip and Nusheen were joking back and forth. And she said something about, well, so-and-so said they'd give me $1 million for this. And Skip probably says, I'll give you $1.5 million. Joke. But now that the lawyers heard it, you put it in a lawsuit and it embarrasses Skip and it drives conversation and it brings more attention to the lawsuit. And as I walked you through yesterday, and this is before I saw the Jay Crawford clip, I was like, Skip got baited into a sexual Olympic with Shannon Sharpe. I said, you bring these athletes and mainstream them all the way through these television networks, now you got a locker room culture. And a locker room culture is a sexual Olympics. Athletes come in there bragging every day about who they banged and what they, and look, it ain't just athletes, but when it's not athletes, it's not the Olympics. The Olympics is the highest level of competition. The rest of us non-athletes, we participate in an NCAA version of the sexual Olympics. It's at a lower level. But Skip got baited into, oh, I'm gonna compete with an athlete that lives in the gym every day at 57, is all yoked up, swelled up, walks around the dressing room area in the smallest boxer shorts he can find and nothing else. I'm gonna compete with that guy at 70 some odd years old. And that's how he ends up befriended, because him and Nushin were very close. And again, this is the whole deal. You start getting close to these women on the job, and you're in a marriage or you're just trying to walk the straight and narrow, eventually you're going to fall. You're going to say things that will be used against you. And you got to approach these women in that environment. They're like the police. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a sexual harassment lawsuit. Remember the NFL Network lawsuit that swiped up Eric Davis and Marshall Faulk, a bunch of these guys at the NFL now, maybe even Michael Irvin, I can't remember. And I'm sure these guys were in the wrong. But I've heard the other side of it from those guys. And I know it rings true because I've seen it with my own eyes other places. The woman wasn't some innocent victim. She was right in there flirting, rubbing on guys, and she baited them all. And so, yeah, should the men, I hold them more responsible because you got to be smarter and better than that. And some of these guys were married and they were idiots. Idiots. And you could go, again, because I thank my father, my heavenly father and my earthly father, for providing me the wisdom, like, hey, this is all a problem. And Jason, you're too outspoken. And if you get caught up in that, trust me, they're going to destroy you. And so all the guys, they'll go testify, all the guys that were a part of Speak for Yourself, they all heard it from me like, hey, man, leave them makeup people alone. I don't want nobody saying that the guys that are with me on Speak for Yourself, that we're all running around trying to bang the makeup crew. And I'm just going to keep it real. What I told them, I was like, you see how black this show is? I'm not going to have our reputation be, oh, Fox Sports black show, these guys are running around trying to bang everybody. Not going to have it. That's just, again, I'm paranoid, I'm smart, I got wisdom from this Bible and from my father. I'm going to play a couple of clips from Marcellus Wiley, and hopefully tomorrow we'll have Marcellus on the show, and me and him will compare some notes about all of this. I think we'll have Marcellus on tomorrow's show, but Marcellus taped a show yesterday talking about the Joy Taylor situation. Oh, you know what I never did? Before I play Marcellus, I just want to make a brief comment about it. Dave Portnoy tweeted out some things about Joy Taylor, and I'm going to quickly address this. But here's Dave Portnoy talking about Joy Taylor. Who effing cares if they had consensual relationship or not? And since when is Acho some heavyweight who gets people promoted? I honestly don't even know why Joy Taylor is in the lawsuit, because she was mean to her hairdresser, yet simultaneously spilled her guts to her. Makes zero sense. Dave Portnoy, no common sense here. No biblical wisdom here. Dave Portnoy, and again, I'm not saying this to disparage, I'm just speaking factually. He's a sexual degenerate that, can't tame his lust for young women, and probably enjoys being empowered at Barstool and the offers that he gets from young women that would love to work at Barstool or love to benefit financially from Dave Portnoy. And so what has Joy Taylor done wrong here? She's pleasured her boss in Emmanuel Acho and hopefully countless others. That's a good thing. We need more of that. Dave Portnoy doesn't operate from the same biblical morality that I do and many of you do. I'll stop there. Here's Dave Portnoy calling BS, I think, on the Skip Bayless aspect. My BS meter is on 100 million trillion in this Fox Sports lawsuit. Just accusing people of SHIT doesn't make it facts. Time will tell. I will say I think all the accused shouldn't listen to their lawyers, plus should loudly be defending themselves if they are innocent. Dave Portnoy is pro-sexual degeneracy. And he's making a good living. And look, I used to be pro-sexual degeneracy. And you can make a great living being pro. That gets rewarded. The devil has rewards. I used to write columns, jokes about pussy galore and how men of a certain economic means should be allowed to step out and do whatever they want. I've done all of it. I used to live at strip clubs, brag about it, did all. And so I'm not suggesting I'm better than Dave Portnoy. What I am suggesting is that I've had to submit to a biblical worldview, had to submit to fearing and trying to follow the commandments of God. Dave Portnoy and I serve two different gods, and so we have two different points of view on all of this. He's making a lot of money being pro-degeneracy. There's a lot of popularity for doing that and being that. Hats off to Dave Portnoy. Now let me air a couple of these things, some of these things Marcellus Wiley said, and react to that. And again, I'm pretty sure we'll have Marcellus on the show tomorrow. Steve Kim is coming up right around the corner here after I get through this Marcellus stuff. Let's start with Marcellus. Shot number 6, suggesting that Joy Taylor's relationship with Emmanuel Acho and relationship with Charlie Dixon played a role in Marcellus losing his job. Let's play shot number 6.
Here's an example of how it could get uglier. What if there was an employee who lost their job, or their job was negatively influenced, right? Intimidated, moved around, put in bad situations, off the network. And it was because their boss, allegedly, was sleeping with another employee. And their co-host was sleeping with the same employee. And then that same employee, coincidentally, just ends up replacing that individual. It's an example, of course, but imagine some kind of love triangle where the boss and a co-host was sleeping with the same person who ends up replacing that individual.
So he's talking about Joy sleeping with Emmanuel Acho and sleeping with Charlie Dixon, and that Joy eventually replaced Marcellus Wiley on Speak for Yourself. He's saying Joy sleeping with Charlie Dixon is the reason Marcellus got replaced on his job. He said, interesting, is what Marcellus said. Let's play shot number 7, Marcellus, on how the makeup room is a setup for failure and sexual innuendo. Play shot 7.
It's because that's the breeding ground for all these salacious relationships. Everywhere I've worked, and you can look it up. You can just literally type in network, makeup artist, blah, blah, blah. It's an intimate environment. She's right in your face. And I've seen it go both ways. The players, or the former players, or the announcer, the host, whoever the guest is going in there ready to mac, ready to holler. It could be that person. It could be the makeup artist she knows how close in the proximity she is to some access, some success. She knows how powerful these figures are, you know? And I've also seen it where you come in and you're just not even tripping. But you guys see each other 5 times a week, multiple times a day. She ain't ugly, you ain't either. You got $5, she got $4. Y'all kicking it. And it turns into something. I've seen it every single level. This one specifically, I can't pin down on Skip Bayless. That's a lot of money for something that's free online. I'm going to say that again. But over 7 years, as is alleged, things are different. Things can change for it.
Let's play SOT 9. This is Marcellus insinuating, doubling down a bit, that these relationships led to Marcellus's dismissal from FS1. Play the clip.
Unlocking the piece of Charlie. Let me just stay on that for a second, if true. Woo-wee! I'm looking at my history, and I'm looking at the history of a lot of other talents on that network a lot differently. A lot differently. In a really bad way. Because, like we said in that example, imagine if Charlie allegedly is sleeping with Joy Taylor and Emmanuel Acho, and there's somebody who's not sleeping with Joy Taylor. Let's just use me, all right? Because I've known Joy Taylor since she was born, basically, it felt like. I mean, I remember seeing her as an itty bitty around her brother, the homie Jason Taylor. We came out the same year in the same draft class, et cetera. So, known her since itty bitty status. Before this lawsuit, I couldn't make sense of nonsense. But that part right there, the allegation of Joy Taylor versus sleeping with Charlie Dixon and Emmanuel Acho versus an example like mine, unlocks a lot.
That's the same thought I had reading the lawsuit in terms of the timing when Joy Taylor connected with Emmanuel Acho. The hairstylist says this is around February or March of 2020, right at the beginning of COVID. And that's right at the time when there was a pivot of the negotiations with me and Fox. It went from, yeah, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and yeah, we're going to build this thing in a way that makes more sense for you, to come back on the other side of COVID right after to, hey, we're going to offer you the exact same money. Despite all this growth, despite all this success, we're going to offer you the exact same money, and it's a take it or leave it. It's just me and the person I'm negotiating with had a very close relationship, Eric Shanks, and he went straight cold as ice. This is it, nothing to debate, nothing to talk about. It was interesting. And I remember thinking through it, and it's like, well, how did we get here, and what happened? And I'm going to save it for tomorrow when Marcel is here before I unpack the full thing. But anybody that knows me knows, like, hey, man, if Whitlock says X, Y, and Z, he's crazy enough to live up to X, Y, and Z. Now, I do think they were surprised that I stood my ground. Larry Jones, who was part of those negotiations, seemed very shocked and just couldn't believe, like, this Negro is going to turn down this money, blah, blah. You know, they called my bluff, and I'm like, I don't bluff. But what I'm saying is, if they didn't have this plan in the back of their mind, my negotiation, I believe, would have went different. And if they didn't, if one of these black female executives that's been pushed into a high up position didn't have so much influence and didn't want, hey, I don't want these complaints and calls coming in. Whitlock says these things that, you know, cause people to complain. Hey, why don't we bring in Oprah Winfrey's sex toy plaything, Emmanuel Acho, and, you know, he'll come on and pretend to have uncomfortable conversations with people. You know, he's been groomed by Oprah and the whole feminist movement. Yeah, now no one will complain. Robert Littell and Black Sports Online won't complain. And then she's, I don't know how detailed she unpacks this narrative, but you got all these men in high up positions that are scared to death of black girl magic, getting crossways with feminists, getting crossways with perhaps women that have leverage over them. And it's like, yeah, get rid of Whitlock and the patriarchy. That'll make things easier for all of us. I'm gonna play a final clip of Marcellus talking about Emmanuel Acho. Have a little reaction, then we'll move on to Steve Kim. Play the clip.
And Emmanuel Acho, who comes from a 3-4 year playing career that he even says was a little below standard, a little subpar, but he becomes uncomfortable conversation guy, Oprah Winfrey guy, plugged media star. This is co-host a show with me, co-host a show with Joy, co-host a show now with another ensemble, does a Saturday show, does other shows, HBO Max, I've seen, etc. Interesting. I hear you, Cat Williams. Stop it. Stop. Not right now. I don't need another cat. Don't be calling me.
He's calling him installed, and he is. And he went through the Oprah Winfrey feminist brainwashing camp, and that's what he does. And that's why he was banging Joy Taylor and pumping out videos about Joy Taylor and Black Girl Magic and how awesome she is. And, it's a bat signal to all of these men, particularly black men. You want these positions, hop on board with this matriarchal baby mama, black girl magic culture. Hop on board with feminism. And that's what they do. And that's the last dot I'll connect just from the beginning to the end. This lawsuit that the New York Times so far is avoiding, and because, again, they don't know how to repackage or package this in a way that sells their narrative. This lawsuit speaks to what's going on in American culture. Women placed in all of these different work environments, installed in leadership positions, all to feminize American culture, all to project that, hey, women can do what men are supposed to do. Women can do what men did. And if women had been in charge in 1776, do you understand how much better America would be? Everybody would be transgender, and it would be perfect if women had just been in charge. And many of you men are running around feeling sorry for women, as if all the blood you shed in the Civil War, in World War I, World War II, all the blood you shed falling off of skyscrapers as a roughneck, all the lives you sacrificed building railroads across this country, blowing up mountains to build highways, discovering how to fly planes and all of that. Oh, apologize. You did all this terrible things to women. Apologize. You're an idiot. We don't owe them an apology. They owe us. And that's not hatred towards women, because I don't hate women. We should compliment each other. The system has made us compete against each other, and we're all losing. Don't go anywhere. Steve Kim, X. NBA All-Star Weekend was a big deal. And for the last decade, the NBA All-Star Game has been a 2.5 hour commercial of, hey, these guys don't want to play the game. They're lackadaisical about the game. There is no real competition. It's a horrible showcase of the game. It's a big, gigantic commercial of like, look how much we paid these tatted up tall guys who don't really care about the game. Look at them, they won't even compete. That is what has hyper-focused the conversation around the NBA and its poor play and its jacking up of three-pointers and its non-competitive and its jersey swaps. You can't blame this on Barkley and all these other people where you can just go look. You can go to basketballreference.com and say, well, damn, Michael Jordan played 81, 82 games like in the overwhelming majority of the seasons he played in the NBA. I think he played 14 years, and I think 11 of those, he played at least 80 games during the regular season. I think at age 40 with the Washington Wizards, at the end of his career, the man played 82 games. Players don't do that now.
모두 다 빨리 박수 쳐 기다리지 말고 서둘러 Reason that I'm back is to feed you raps I see that you are 배불러 So fly
All right, welcome back. Time for some Korean Cosell with a side dose of butter. Cosell, we'll start with, you have any thought? Did you get to watch any of my rant? You have any thoughts here, follow-ups? You got any thoughts?
I can't wait till tomorrow. You and Marcellus, Ebony and Ebony. I mean, this took longer than the Guns and Roses reunion, but you're back. We got the band. I cannot wait. We don't even need to do a conference call later today. I get it. We're going to do Speak for Yourself on Fearless. I cannot wait to watch it. But this is the thought. Yesterday on Twitter, you dominated. You were the million meme march by yourself, and you had the whole country thinking about Skippy and Jif the whole time. I'm not going to lie. I haven't craved peanut butter since about my 8th grade at La Merced Intermediate. And I just want to go back to this, Jason. I just can't get over the $1.5 million figure. It just lingers in my, I think that right there places, I believe, a little bit of doubt of the veracity of this whole thing. Just think about it, Jason, what you can get for $1.5 million. Either that or the Biden inflation is real. So either way, but again, let the courts decide it. Let the courts decide it.
Hold for 1 second. Hold for 1 second.
Yeah.
So you're rejecting my argument that it's an off-the-cuff statement that has been recast by a lawyer. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to try without the details. I'm going to try to tell you what lawyers do. I was involved in a financial dispute with someone prominent in the media, and lawyers had to settle it. And I had a very good lawyer, very good, the best. And he's like, hey, I can get X amount if you do this, but I could double or triple this amount if you play the race card. Are you sure there wasn't some racism involved here? And I was like, I can't do it. One of the parties involved, I do believe, dealt with me in a racist fashion, but I wasn't going to drag the other party into that. And I was like, nah, I'm good. I'll take what you get. We won't try to double and triple this up. Lawyer was disappointed, but again, this is what lawyers do. And so there's a couple things I could have said that could be packaged up and repackaged, and like next thing you know, I'm calling people racist. And I was like, I can't. The money ain't worth it to me. I'm built different. And so I just think Nushin and Skip were in so many conversations where jokes were going back and forth that, yeah, he probably did say, yeah, I'll give you 1.5, but it was in response to a joke where she was like, it'd take $1 million to get this. That's what I think ended up happening.
Okay, all right. So if you don't believe in verbal contracts, all right, I know where you stand next time we renegotiate. That's all I'm going to say, Jason. I'll store that right up here in the IBM. Okay, gotcha.
Let's move on. Do you have anything else you want to add there before we move on?
No, I think you covered it, Jason. You've covered it.
Let's move on to Shedeur Sanders. I want to play you a clip from Tom Pelissero saying that a lot of teams don't have a first-round grade on Shedeur. Let's play SOT number 11.
Shedeur Sanders, for a variety of reasons, is going to be a really fascinating overall evaluation. And, I've already talked to people within the league who don't have anything close to a first-round grade on the guy. He certainly has fans. He certainly comes in with high profile. But this idea that, I think what did Shedeur do? Didn't he walk into the bowl game wearing a Giants outfit or something like that? The idea that he's just going to walk in and be the number one pick, that's probably pushing it. I'd probably, and I'm not setting odds on this, Rich, of course, because I would not do that on your show. But, if I were guessing who comes off the board first, I'd say Shedeur is not the first Colorado player off the board as it stands today. Travis Hunter may be a generational type of player. Somebody may well fall in love with Shedeur Sanders. He could go number one overall. I would just say in my conversations, there is healthy skepticism among people in the league that when it comes to the end of this process and we get to that last week of April, that somebody's going to jump out there and use a really high pick on making him a franchise QB.
I think the fact that Shedeur may go in the lower half of the first round, or maybe not in the first round at all, explains why Shedeur, Deion, and Travis are going to do the NFL draft in Colorado, not at the big NFL draft party. Your thoughts?
Yeah, in other words, they don't want to be the green room casualty, which goes all the way back. The most famous one, obviously, is Aaron Rodgers, the year that he was left into the mid-20s. And I remember all of this started when I remember in 88, Jason, I don't know where you were at Ball State, but I remember when Thurman Thomas, they had a camera set up at his home in, I think it was in Stillwater, supposed to be a first-round draft choice. He kept slipping out of the first. And I think it was Andrea Kramer for ESPN was stationed with them. He ended up falling asleep before he got drafted. And I think every player has this nightmare of, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the last guy in the green room that's just sitting there. But Jason, from a pure football standpoint, I've said this and I've talked to people that know more than I do, like Coach JB. There are some things about Shedeur Sanders that concern people that watch this stuff and really understand the game. And number one is his ability or unwillingness to get rid of the ball on time within structure of a play. And look, the game has changed a lot, but there's a basic principle of playing quarterback at that level. You have to consistently get rid of that ball in right around 2.5 seconds. When that back foot hits and you drop, you have to make a quick decision. And unless you have that unbelievable feel or athleticism, like a Mahomes or a Lamar Jackson, I think Caleb Williams learned a lot. This was not the Pac-12, and you saw what happened to him. He got engulfed by defenders who are better athletes than he is. I think that there's a significant risk, in my view, of taking Shedeur in the first 5 to 10 picks of this draft.
Oh, I think it's a significant risk taking him in the first round. I think that's what
you went all the way.
Literally, I think that's what's going to end up being the conversation. And then there'll be accusations of racism or the people that hate Deion. But I think Deion is part of the risk factor here.
Yeah.
Every NFL team, regardless of who the family is, regardless of who the quarterback is, they end up dealing with the family as well. The family's part of that's who, after the game, quarterback comes and gets encircled by his family, and what feedback he gets from his family is very important. And to have a quarterback who has a Hall of Fame, one of the 10, 15 greatest football players of all time, second-guessing you is like, I don't know if I want to sign up for that. Deion wants to take little pot shots and criticize from the peanut gallery. I don't know if I want to deal with that.
Jason, they always bring up the Manning family with Eli, how they didn't want him to go specifically to San Diego. They engineered that trade to the New York Giants. I get it. But this is where the comparisons stop, and this is what you talk about. Archie Manning was notoriously quiet. He stood out of the way as much as possible. He would do the interview once in a while. He would be a basis of a documentary, and that's about it. But he never actually said stuff like, well, I got to see who's running the franchise. Once he got him to the Giants, for the most part, Archie Manning stayed out of it. And I think this is the fear, and you talked about it, Jason. Let's say that he gets to the franchise that he wants. Okay. So let's say now that the head coach brings in a coordinator that's not Coach Prime approved. Now you got this. Well, why are you running this? Why are you running that? Then they bring in a quarterback coach. Okay, well, what's his background? What's his track record? I'm not so sure I want my son to be learning quarterback play at this level for him. Then every year of the draft, you don't get the specific offensive lineman or the number one receiver. Well, they're not helping my son. I mean, who wants to consistently deal? I do think, and I don't know if Pelissaro wanted to get into it, the whole specter of the Sanders dynamic, I think, is a factor to at least a few teams.
Steve, I want to move to the NBA. Dwight Howard and Shaquille O'Neal are in a feud. And I actually, it reminds me a little bit of Kwame Brown's feud with Stephen A. Smith. Yeah. In terms of Kwame Brown just started protesting like, hey man, you're portraying me as a clown. I got kids that are asking me questions. It's hurting my reputation. That seems to be what Dwight Howard is saying about Shaquille O'Neal. It's like, hey man, leave me alone. I had my run in the NBA. I'm tired of you talking about me. He basically insinuated that Shaq is costing him opportunities to appear on NBA TV or other networks talking about the game. Anyway, I want to play this Dwight Howard clip, and I want to know if you are as sympathetic to Dwight Howard as I am. Let's play SOT 13.
And that was the thing that I hated the most, is the fact that he always thought I was trying to be him or be like him. But again, if I wanted to be you or be like you, shouldn't you take that as a compliment and to show how great you are as a player and a person?
Yeah.
I ain't never wanted to be Shaq in any level. Now, have I wanted to take certain things from him, his life, and implement for my life?
Of
Hell
course.
yeah, I do that with Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, LeBron James, all these people. Why? Because they have certain things that I'm like, hey, I could use that and make myself better.
Yeah.
I see how Magic Johnson smiled all the time. I'm gonna smile.
Yes.
All he did was smile.
Yeah, I
and
forgot
have a
about
good
that.
time.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't I smile?
Yeah.
Magic Johnson smiled and got him all this stuff. So let me smile. All right, Shaq, I just never, he's 7'3", 7'2", big old, that's him. Never disrespected him.
Yeah.
But he's always had something to say. And, you know, there's times where I gotten upset and I'm like, yo, Shaq, just gotta stop, man.
Oh, so you actually talked to him about it?
I tried to. I literally, during Dancing with the Stars, somebody said that they're really close with Shaq and they were working with me. And I said, hey, man, do you mind sending Shaq a message, you know, to try to figure out like, yo, what's up?
Yeah.
Can we have a sit down conversation? Because every conversation or every time I hear or see something about you is you disrespecting me on some type of level. And at this point, I'm like, do we need to throw hands? Like, what are we doing? Because I have not ever, like, for me, the only thing I would do with Shaq is mimic his voice. Do like that. But what else can I mimic him about? Like, Shaquille O'Neal is the most dominant center ever.
But yeah.
But again, he keep saying stuff about me. So it's like, hey, bro, do you really want to, like, do we need to go ahead and squabble?
So
the world is too big and you got two big characters. For one,
who brought the same energy?
Things that we could do together. There's so many people that we could bring together, but yet you got an attitude about what? You are a grown ass 50-year-old or about to be 50, whatever.
No, he like 52, 53.
You are. You're 50-something years old. You're twice my elder. Whatever you want to call it. I have no issue with you. But you continue to talk about me, I'm gonna have to come to you.
Yeah.
Sympathetic for Dwight Howard, or he needs thicker skin?
Probably a little bit of both, but let's go through the history of this, Jason. I think a lot of this had to do with the fact that Dwight Howard was the center or the best center after Shaq. In certain ways, may have made people forget about the Diesel. And then I remember there was a dispute because I remember that Shaq used to describe himself as Black Superman, and they both kind of like the comic book realm. And I remember Dwight Howard used to wear a lot of the Superman shirts. So then Shaq took that as like, hey, you're trying to be me or replace me or forget about me. And I've always said one thing about like the popularity in Orlando. Shaq, you willingly left the Magic in your physical prime. You were not traded. Out of your own free will, you engineered your way to the Lakers, which was great for me. But don't expect Orlando to keep pining for you. And here's the other thing. Shaq's done this to other players. Remember JaVale McGee? He was the butt of a lot of his jokes. The Shaq and the Fool, and a lot of it was funny. But at a certain point, you're like, okay, now it's gratuitous. Shaq himself is notoriously sensitive. He really is. Okay, so here's the other thing. Dwight Howard did not have a complete game. I recognize that when he became a Laker, how underdeveloped his post game was, right? But let me give him credit. That guy made multiple all-star teams. There was a stretch of about 5-6 years where he was a dominant post player defensively, protected the rim. I think he won Defensive Players of the Year, won a lot of playoff games, was a perennial all-star, probably has a case for the Hall of Fame. At what point does Shaq just lay back? I actually give Dwight Howard credit for trying to be the bigger man and at least sticking out the olive branch. But the question is, if you want to compare him to Kwame Brown, does he have any mama's cooking? Is he really up for that type of battle?
Look, I think you made a great point about Shaq and insecurity. And what Shaq, to me, I always favored him over Kobe Bryant because I thought Shaq was self-deprecating. And for me, I thought Shaq was more valuable just because anytime you're that big, that powerful in the paint, it creates opportunity and room for Kobe and everybody else on the court. But at the end of the day, I now see what Kobe saw and why they beefed. And I think Shaq sees what Kobe saw. I think Shaq acts in a way that he knows, like, man, I could have been in this GOAT conversation if I had taken this more seriously. If I had applied myself, and if me and Kobe had won 6-7 titles together, I would be further up the food chart in this GOAT conversation. I think most people don't have Shaq in their top 10. And some people do, but I think most people, when they start compiling their top 10 players, and I'm about to start writing notes to myself here, Steve, so fill in this airtime as I try to put together my top 10. But I think Shaq has regret about what he left on the table.
As spectacular and as dominant as the Diesel was, he actually did underachieve based on the capabilities he had. Now, look, he had one absolute spectacular, immaculate year. That was Phil Jackson's first year at the Lakers, 99 to 2000. Jason, in relationship to the Kobe Shaq debate, as a Laker fan currently in recess, I fondly remember those days. Shaq gets a lot of credit for being the number one guy, and somehow there's a perception that Kobe was relegated to being Robin to his Batman. I'll make an argument. I don't care about who won the finals MVPs against overmatched Eastern Conference teams. Without Kobe Bean Bryant in at least one, if not two of those years, the Lakers do not get out of the West. I get the fact that Shaq was rare, but if you look at those Laker teams, they had nobody else on the perimeter with real athleticism or that could create his own shots off the dribble. And Jason, there's a final argument to be made for Kobe Bryant. When Jerry West and Jerry Buss really made the decision that we're going to move on with the kid from Pennsylvania, well, Shaq only won one more title post-Lakers. Kobe Bryant led them to 2. I think that eats at him. And I'll tell you a story which I think really symbolized their relationship. The year after Shaq's MVP year, he got heavy again. He did not have the same year in that back-to-back year, and Kobe Bryant was so frustrated. There was an ESPN cover story where he basically said, and I'm not going verbatim, but he said, well, Shaq got fat and lazy in the offseason. I only got better. I'm going to win games here. And Phil Jackson wants me to slow it down. No. I'm ramping it up. And I'm thinking, oh my God, we have some issues. But at the end of the day, you talk to most Lakers, who's the better Laker on that chart? I believe 4 out of 5 will say Kobe Bean Bryant.
I'm going to rattle off some names here and tell me if you think Shaq has an argument to be better than them. Michael Jordan.
No.
No.
Come on,
LeBron James. LeBron James. No.
No. I hate to say it. No. No.
Magic Johnson.
No. No.
Larry Bird.
No.
Kareem.
No.
Wilt.
No.
Bill Russell.
No.
Tim Duncan.
Maybe, but no. Maybe, but no.
Kobe Bryant. No.
No.
And here's where it gets real interesting. Hakeem Olajuwon.
I've been waiting for that one. Absolutely hell to the no.
I feel the same way about this next name. Moses Malone.
3-time MVP.
Yeah.
I think you've laid out the thing, and you want to talk about a grinder that got the most out of his ability and actually dominated a pretty good version of Kareem in the early 80s. That, to me, is a no.
Karl Malone and Dr. J.
Those, I think he has a case, especially with Malone. Dr. J's best ball actually came in the ABA. It's a little bit different, but I would say I'd put him over the mailman. I have a question.
Dr. J was an MVP. Dr. J carried the league and from a ratings perspective, interest perspective. Anyway, go ahead.
This guy's not retired yet, but he's putting up quite a resume. Jokic.
There you go.
I mean, let's talk about that
there
one.
You go. There you go. And who knows if I want to squeeze in a couple more things, Steve, real quick. I'm going to jump ahead and because I thought Dan Orlovsky had a great take on the MVP discussion, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. I thought this was he made a small little detail error, but it does not defeat the case he made for Josh Allen. I thought it was brilliant. Want your take? Here's Dan Orlovsky arguing with Shannon Sharp.
In my opinion, the MVP should be Josh Allen. To your point, I was just with Lamar. During the game, he does stuff, and you go, how are you not going to give this guy the MVP? I mean, he's that remarkable. I agree with Shannon's initial point. The conversation around the MVP this year has gotten absolutely off the rails. We should be celebrating these dudes, not pinning them against each other. It should not become some racial divide. They're both absolutely spectacular. One of them is going to win it, and one of them is going to be sit there frustrated, disappointed that they didn't win it. The reason why I would, in my opinion, have Josh Allen be it is, one, to your statistical argument, that is, if we're just going to go off stats, then remove the vote. Just have the computers tell us who is the MVP. MVP is you're trying to subjectively evaluate value and how valuable a person is. Okay, point number one, and this is why, in my opinion, MVP would be Josh Allen. The Buffalo Bills this year, with Josh Allen as their starting quarterback, averaged 3 points per drive. That's top 5 historically in the history of the NFL. Okay? You don't do that as an offense without a 1,000-yard receiver or 1,000-yard running back. The Bills have neither. So to have a historically performing offense without a 1,000-yard back or 1,000-yard receiver tells me that the quarterback's performance is absolutely off the charts. That's number one. Number two, the Bills have 2 Pro Bowls. The Ravens have 9. The value of the quarterback to go and win the 2 seed when you obviously have a lesser roster has to be part of that equation. Number 3, he beat both 1 seeds in each conference, Kansas City and Detroit. Number 4, when these graphs get put up and these charts and we put these things, and it only says passing yards and touchdowns and interceptions. Lamar's had an amazing season. He's got more turnovers than Josh Allen. So that right there, that's misleading, and that's why numbers can make them say whatever you want them to say. Lamar has more turnovers than Josh. He has more negative plays than Josh. Josh is the first quarterback in the history of the league to have over 40 touchdowns accounted for, yet under 8 turnovers and less than 20 sacks. The amount of production that he has, yet the little amount of negative plays that he has, which would be sacks, fumbles, and interceptions thrown, no one's done it in the history of this league. With a roster that doesn't have Derrick Henry and it doesn't have Zay Flowers, that's why it's Josh Allen, in my opinion.
Whew.
James Cook rushed for 1,009 yards. He got there in the final game of the season. Josh Allen did not play in that final game. You could make the argument that he's arguing that Josh Allen didn't have a 1,000-yard back during the 16 games he played, but that's just 1,009 yards. His point still stands. I think he won the argument, and I think it's pretty significant, impressive, and telling that he was even willing to make the argument as strongly as he did on ESPN while arguing with Shannon Sharpe. Your thoughts?
Well, I've got to give Orlovsky a lot of credit. Did you see that little not so sneaky shot at the bow to Ryan Clark at the beginning? Wow. And I will give Orlovsky credit. This guy might be F. Lee Bailey of football. He laid out an unbelievable argument. Because I'm not going to lie to you. I was looking at the numbers. And again, numbers are just numbers. It's hard for me not to give it to Lamar Jackson. He went 41-4 touchdown to interception ratio. And for the first time, Jason, in his career, he passed for over 4,000 yards. Now, you talk about the records. They were one game apart. And if Tucker has the usual Tucker year, Ravens may have lost 2-3 games because he cost them at least 2, right? But this is what it reminds me of as I'm listening to Orlovsky talk about the subjective way we say what is value. Jason, do you remember the 1988 baseball MVP race in the National League? Because there was some controversy. And I remember this when I was a big baseball fan living in Montebello. I played baseball my whole young adult life, and I was not a Dodger fan. Kirk Gibson won that award with like 25, 26 home runs, 88 RBIs. Darryl Strawberry in New York had a monster year, and I love Strawberry. Out of Crenshaw High School, one of my favorite players. And the Mets, I thought, were significantly better than the Dodgers. Even in the postseason, a lot of things happened. But everyone kept talking about the leadership and the intangibles of Captain Kirk, how he led that mediocre Dodger team all the way eventually. And I kept saying, wait a minute, what about the numbers? What about the numbers Darryl Strawberry put up? And you know what? I kept chirping about it. And then finally, there's one World Series game. Gibson with one leg goes yard on Eckersley, and I look like a damn fool. So there is a precedent for
Hold for 1 second. Refresh me. So the year he hit that one-legged homer, he won the MVP?
Yeah. I believe so.
I didn't know
in '88.
Got you.
And I kept thinking, well, what about Strawberry? Strawberry had a much better numbers. But I'm just kind of looking at this. I hope I'm correct on that because I do remember Kirk Gibson getting a lot of awards. Yep. Was I correct?
No, keep going. We'll get there.
Now, I don't dispute this. The Ravens are as good a roster as there is in the National Football League. They could still win it. Buffalo, the perception was, which I believe, that they were a team in transition that was going to take a step back. And after last year's loss to Kansas City, that the Super Bowl window had closed. But Jason, I think, again, it is very difficult, in my view, to take away this award from Lamar, who's already won the MVP, when this season statistically is actually superior to some of the other years that he's had before.
This Kirk Gibson deal, that's fascinating. I mean, obviously I remember that World Series. He had 25 homers, 76 RBIs.
Oh,
Darryl Strawberry had 39 homers, 101 RBI. Darryl Strawberry led the league in home runs, in slugging percentage, and in OPS. Kirk Gibson didn't lead in anything. In retrospect, you look back and you say, you know what, these guys are right. They judge the value, some intangibles that he brought to the table, and that's where obviously the 9 Pro Bowlers that Baltimore has versus 2 versus Buffalo, that's really compelling. I've heard other people make that argument, but even when you factor in turnovers and the thing he said about 3 points per possession, he really broke it down in a very compelling way, and I think ended that debate. Steve, I'm running late. We got to go. I got to get Shemeka Michelle on here, and then I got something else I need to do today. So we're going to let you go. Great job as always. We'll see you next time. Shemeka Michelle, X. Welcome to Extra Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Oh my God, Lyndon Johnson, his thoughts are so disgusting. I can't believe you would engage with him. The celebration for being a slut have never been greater. Why do you choose Taylor Swift, and why do you pick up a role as, let me help my woman undress on stage in front of an audience?
When I look at people like Sexy Red or Cardi B that we prop up, now I see that the white community as well is just as fried.
It does look to me like he made some eye contact with her and then just decided, nah, let me move on. The BET Awards seems like a psyop at this point. It's just Democratic brainwashing. Get in there and fight for all the things. Steve, that's it for you. I'm done. All right, welcome back. Smoke Show, Butter. We got about 7-8 minutes here before I got to bounce. We'll start. Just quick comment, Shemeka, but what do you think about today's show? Shemeka, definitely you, as I went in on the whole feminist movement and the big cans of peanut butter, Joy Taylor. Any additional thoughts today?
Jason, I think this is just, Black women doing Black women shit, if we're honest, and pardon my language. But, there's a whole phase. There's a whole phase that is celebrated among Black women on their way to, it's like a rite of passage, on their way to strong Black womanhood, becoming a strong Black woman that no one wants, right? This is why we have to unsubscribe to the whole idea of skin worship, to the whole idea of Black girl magic, because it comes with low expectations. That's why Dave Portnoy and Stephen A. Smith can't condemn the behavior, because they're subscribed to that skin worship that we're told you can't correct a Black woman. That's, somebody said they were candoring instead of pandering, but that's why, because we can't correct Black women and we feel like it's okay to have that poor behavior. And people are coming up here telling you shouldn't be saying cans or jugs, talking about the way you're describing it, instead of condemning the behavior. Because even if you are questioning whether or not she did it, sleeping around with 2 men on the job is nasty, trash, poor behavior. Saying that if you get caught, you're gonna try and claim that you were raped or sexually assaulted is poor behavior. And we need to start holding women accountable to this poor behavior. But as soon as you say, I'm a Black woman, then everyone wants to back off. This is why on November 5th, America did the best thing that it could, which was deny the whore who was trying to prove how Black she was. We have to unsubscribe to that, because it just comes with low expectations.
Shemeka, we're not going to pivot off of that because you've said so much, but I can't wait to hear Butter follow up on that.
That was riveting right there. Tough to follow. Hey, this is all I can say. This is my 2 cents. Not all cans and peanut butter are made equally. Okay, so just because you got some cans and some peanut butter doesn't mean that it's got the power. Jamel Hill's not sleeping her way to the top.
Jamel Hill doesn't have peanut butter, for one, and I've never noticed her cans. So, as the cans and peanut butter deal, that applies across racial lines. Because again, I'm telling you, white women sit out in the sun, and they get peanut butter skin too, and they use them cans the same way. And I if it ever hits the news cycle, trust me, I got stories to talk about them as well. There's things I've unpacked about Katie Nolan that, trust me, there's still more layers to that. This is it's a never-ending story that, again, the media and people don't want to talk about. What did you think of my point? And I'm asking because I thought it was a great point. It's where we ended. It was like, we've been tricked into competing against each other rather than complimenting each other. I'm talking about men and women, and particularly black men and black women. And that's why we're making no progress and we're descending into failure and chaos because we're competing against each other. And it's an unfair fight, but they got men on their knees. It's like I have a stepbrother, older. And when I was a little kid, he's like 8 years older than me. And I would want to box him every weekend. And, he was bigger than me and he's 6, 7, 8 years older than me. So he'd get on his knees and we would box and he would still beat me up. But I would try to, virtually every weekend, let's put the gloves on, Arch. And he'd get on and men are getting on their knees and pandering to women and everybody's losing the fight. Shemeka?
Yeah, I think it was an excellent point, Jason, and I think you're absolutely right. Smart people understand that men and women can't compete. We complement one another. I can't do what a man can do, just like a man can't do what a woman can do, and nor should he try. We are here to complement one another, and I say this all the time. God created us as help meets. Help to support and assist, meet, fulfill, and satisfy. And any woman that's outside of that, outside of her nature, that's why she's bitter, that's why she's angry, that's why she's walking around trying to bring down a man and constantly saying, I am the most educated. You're the most educated, but you seem to be the less intelligent because you can't seem to see that this type of behavior is not conducive to an environment that is actually benefiting and growing our community. And at this point, it's not about whether somebody is actually black, because I've seen people say, oh, Joy Taylor isn't black. You shouldn't be calling her black. At this point, it is subscribing to the idea of being a black woman. Look around. The behavior is the same. When they claim, oh, I'm this strong black woman, the behavior is the same. It's not about the skin color. It's about the behavior, this so-called black magic. And this is what we need to be paying attention to because it's harmful to us. The competition is harmful. We need to get back in our rightful spots.
Yesterday, I saw something over social media where people had these pictures of these teenage, early 20s black boys, and both of them had pants with belts on that were well below their butt. And they made some kind of passing comment like, we got to stop this madness or this trend. And this competition between men and women, and I'm not putting a skin color on it, but look at our kids. That is our fruit that says, hey, we're out of line. And when I say, black kids are running around with their pants hanging around, these white kids are showing up, hey, I think I'm a woman, I think I'm gay. They got this whole transgender, they got the whole depression, anxiety issues, all of this stuff. And it's all a reflection of men and women competing against each other instead of complimenting each other. And so when you look at our fruit, our children, they're nuts. I mean, anytime I see, could you imagine how retarded you have to be to put a pair of pants on below your butt, make it so difficult for you to even walk?
Mm-hmm.
That it's inefficient. That's an insanity. Anytime I see somebody, I was like, this person's insane. And then we have young girls looking at it, being attracted to it. And that's an insanity. Final thoughts, Shemeka, and then we got to go.
Yeah, it's definitely insanity. Look at the young girls now who actually are so masculine and think they're men. We're constantly telling young boys that they're sassy, but the girls are actually masculine now, because they're in such competition. And people, we say this all the time on here, we have to be fruit inspectors. You know a tree by the fruit it bears. Look at the fruit we're bearing. It's definitely not good.
Shemeka, thank you. We're going to get out of here. We'll play some tomorrow. And hopefully tomorrow you'll see me and Marcellus talking about Fox Sports tomorrow.
Waiting for the countdown, coming off the breakdown, standing in line for freedom. Looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all these moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on a corner, never been alone. I'm breaking my back for freedom. Blessed, we are living, get back. We are receiving, all deceiving. We all wanna be free. We want freedom. I wanna be, I just